In this video, we'll see how we can make drum beats and also look into some core concepts of Cakewalk that's needed to be understood while working on drums in a project. This video is part of a tutorial series which involves music production so that beginners in Cakewalk or even music production in general will be able to figure out how to produce music in Cakewalk. So this is what we made in the previous video in which we discussed the piano roll. First, we are going to see how we can make a drum beat in the clips pane of Cakewalk by using pre-recorded or synthesized drum audio samples. Right now we are in a sample pack from Cymatics and we are going to open up the drum one-shots. We can see a few folders holding drum and percussion samples. First, let's look for a kick. Let me turn off the loop preview. I think I like this kick, so I'm going to bring it into the clips pane. And now let's look for a snare. Because I will use this one. Now I need a closed hi-hat. Okay, let's use this one. I need one more sample, and that is an open hi-hat. Because I will use this one. Alright, now let's hide the browser. We can make the tracks to fit vertically by pressing F, and if we hit Shift F, it will fit the content horizontally. Now I'm going to zoom in so that we can work with these samples to make some musical sense. The kick is going to be here, and the snare is going to be around here. I guess I need to turn on the snap. Alright, it is snapping to the line now. And then the hi-hat is going to be here, and I'm going to use Ctrl+D several times to duplicate it. But listen to this with the metronome turned on. We can hear that the hat is off tempo, and this happened because of the way we duplicated it. If we zoom in here, we can see that the selection of the hi-hat is exceeding this line here. And when we duplicate that selection, it is natural that the new created copy will begin at the end of the previous selection. If we fit the sample in time, and then if we click on the sample, we can see that the selection is perfectly in time. Well, what if the sample is shorter like this? Then we can select a time interval by clicking and dragging. Now the blank space also becomes a part of what is to be duplicated. Now if I hit Ctrl+D, it will be on time. And so we can duplicate it multiple number of times and it will follow the time. Cool. Now I'm going to select the hi-hat and the snare track and then duplicate that. I gotta fix the time of the open hi-hat and delete the closed one above it. And also by holding down Ctrl, copy the kick here. With these basic ideas, we can lay down drum samples like this to complete the whole song. If you want to make this to sound more real or human, then we can turn off the snap and offset these snares a little bit so that they are not exactly on time. Like this, because human playing is not always on time. I'm not going to elaborate anymore on this method of using samples directly in the clips pane because this is not my usual method of programming drums. So now I'm gonna click and drag on these numbers to select the tracks and then right click on one of the tracks, and instead of deleting them, I'm going to move them to a folder just for safekeeping. For better organization, I'm gonna rename that folder. And I can close the content by clicking on this minus and then expand the folder in order to mute it, thus muting all the tracks inside it. Here is when I actually use the samples directly in the clips pane. You see this drum loop? By directly using it in the clips pane, I can work on it and also modify it to make it my own. And also when I'm working with samples that does not have a clear transient like this clap sound. It's not like the other kick or snare, which has a clear transient in the beginning. Here we can see that it's not a clear transient, it's a little all over the place. So instead of snapping it into time like this, I would have to work around to put it like this. Now let me show you how I program drums in most of my projects, and that is by making use of sampler plugins. We're going to use this complete control as sampler with this sample loaded into it. I'm gonna change the starting to here so that it starts right away. And now I can use the piano roll to program that particular tambourine sample. Now I'm going to turn on snap and make sure that the resolution is 1/16 and the note length is also 1/16. And with that, I'm going to draw some 16th notes. Well, that sounds horrible. Let's fix that. I'm going to draw in only the first 4 notes. Then bring up the controller pane in order to edit the velocity. I'm editing the velocity by imagining how it would sound when someone plays it in real life. Now I'm going to duplicate this, then do a tiny little bit of edit to make them a little bit different from the first 4 notes. And then select the whole thing and duplicate it again. A little bit of edit there as well, and then zoom out. Select the whole thing to duplicate again. But this time I'm going to chop this last note further and then do a velocity ramp up like this. Then duplicate it for the last time. Now listen to this. Sounds much more human, right? And that is one of the reasons why I prefer samplers to program drums. The second reason why I prefer this method is that it's much easier to switch the sample. Let's say we want this sample instead of the tambourine. All we have to do is just drag it into the sampler. It wouldn't be this simple if we were to program this same pattern directly in the clips pane like this. And I'm not sure of any other method by which we can make trap hi-hat patterns like this. Because this is all MIDI, we can also use the step sequencer. To bring up the step sequencer, we bring the playhead where we want it and then right click, go to view, then click step sequencer. So these are all the same keys, just represented in a sequencer format. They are all pretty low in pitch for the time being. We can delete all of them and then add one and change the number to 60, which corresponds to C5. And then if you want, we can add more notes. If you want to add more notes that are lower than 60, then we select the 60 and then add a gain. And then we will have to change that number. Or it will be better to add a lower number like 55 and select the 55 or G4 note and then click plus. So the next note will be 56. And likewise, we can add all these. Now let's see how we can trigger different samples within the same step sequencer clip. For that, we need to use a drum sampler plugin like this one. So this is Sitala, which lets us load at most 16 different samples into these pads. If I open the piano roll, we can see the names of all those samples in here. Therefore, we can program the drums in one single track. And yes, it is much more fun to use the step sequencer for this. But before going into the step sequencer, we need to fix a small problem. And that is, the output of all these pads holding different samples is coming through this single track. This setup is not at all favorable for mixing because different samples might need different kind of processing. Some might need a specific level of reverb, some might need delay, and some others might need saturation. It is possible to fix it here itself, but I think it's better to do that while adding the plugin itself. But even before that, let me introduce the concept of MIDI routing. I'm gonna add a MIDI track here. Now this track does not produce any sound of its own because it's a MIDI track, but we can direct this MIDI track to any plugin that can take in MIDI as input. If we expand the track, we can see this I and O. O stands for output. If you don't see this, then click on this drop down, then select IO. And then all we have to do is select the output from here. In this case, I'm going to direct this to Sitala. And then if I take this MIDI and drop it here, we can hear the output from the track of Sitala. Alright, now I'm going to delete these two tracks and then add Sitala the right way. Usually, in this window, we have the simple instrument track selected, but this time, we are going to select all synth audio outputs in stereo. When we select that, we will get all the audio outputs of Sitala as separate synth audio tracks. And then we are going to enable this MIDI source. It is going to add the MIDI track that is going to hold the MIDI data because synth audio output tracks are audio tracks. And we are also going to include this synth track folder so that everything will be added inside a folder. And then we click OK. Yep, everything is here. But still the audio output is going to come through only one track. To set it right, all we have to do is click here, hover over audio output, and then select 16 channel output. Now all these 16 pads will have their own output tracks. You can see it here. Now I'm going to click on this drop down and select new kit. Yep, definitely change kit. Now we have 16 empty pads into which we can load our samples. And this is how I want to load this plugin in any project I'll be using it in. So we can actually make this into a track template. It's always a kick sample that I load into the first pad of Sitala. So the first track is almost always gonna be a kick. The rest of it might change across different projects. I'm gonna scroll down so you can see the MIDI track. And I want to move it out of the folder. I'm going to click and drag it down. So now it is out of the folder, and then rename it to Sitala MIDI, and then rename this folder as Sitala out. Now if I click on this folder here, all of the tracks in it will be selected. Now I'm going to bring up the console view by using the shortcut Alt+2. Let me hide the browser and make the console view full screen. And I'm going to click on this edge and drag it to the left to reveal all the buses. Then right click here and select insert stereo bus. So now we have a bus to the right of the preview bus. Then I'm going to rename the new bus drums. If I scroll horizontally, we can see all these tracks that are outputs from the Sitala plugin. I'm going to click one of the outputs of them and then click drums while holding down the control key. So now all of the selected tracks are directed to this single bus. Don't worry if you don't understand any of this, because episode 7 of this series is completely dedicated to this console view. I'm doing this now because I want the bus routings to be part of the track template. Alright, let's create a track template for Sitala. First I'm going to minimize this folder and then add this MIDI track to the selection. Then right click on the track, then select save as template. Type in the name, Sitala, and hit save. So the template is saved now. Now I'm going to delete all that so that I can show you how to add a track template to a project. If I click here, all of them are selected and I can right click and just click on this delete 17 tracks to delete everything. But let's see another method of deleting a plugin that is set up with this kind of multi-track outputs. To do that, we are going to go into the views first and then select synth track view. In this synth track view, we can see all the instrument plugins that we have loaded in this project. And we can see Sitala here. I'm going to select that and then delete that by clicking on this cross. And it will ask if we want to delete associated tracks. That way everything related to the plugin will be removed. Now let me show you how to add the Sitala track template that we saved just now. I'm going to select all these tracks, hold down shift and click on this edge to make all of them small like this. Then I'm going to right click here, go to insert from track template. Here we have the Sitala template. And here we have it, what we saved just now. It's all in here. Alright, now I'm going to bring up Sitala by clicking on this icon because we have to load some samples in here. I'm going to go into the browser to look for samples. I'm going to load this into the pad by clicking and dragging it. And the next one, yeah, this one. So these are all the samples I have picked up. Now we can add a step sequencer clip for this Sitala MIDI track. I'm going to use the shortcut Alt+4. Now I'm going to make a drum beat. I think I need the beats to be 8. We are fast forwarding here because the next video is completely dedicated to the step sequencer. And here is the drum beat that I made. You can play the step sequencer alone by hitting this play button inside the step sequencer. Just so you know, I have added in some swing and time delay to make it sound more human. Now if I minimize the step sequencer, we can see the step sequencer clip holding the drum beat that we made just now. If I hit play, whoops, I gotta mute this, and I'm going to mute the strings too, hide the control bar and expand the Sitala out so that you will be able to see the outputs of different pads of the Sitala plugin coming through different tracks. Now the step sequencer clip is a groove clip by default, which means we can extend its edges to loop it. Now I'm going to select the first 2 tracks and then correct the duration of the selection to be perfectly in time so that we can duplicate it without any problem and duplicate it. Yep, cool. Now we can extend the step sequencer groove clip to fill the time. Let me extend the loop region Let's say we want some drum fills in here and only here. But if we edit in the step sequencer clip, any change made here will be reflected in all these 4 iterations. I only want the change to be in the second iteration. So what we are going to do is we are going to split it by holding down Alt and then selecting the region that we want to split. We don't need to click and drag. We can actually do the same by just one click while holding down Alt. Still, if we edit in here, the changes will be reflected in the other 3 iterations. To avoid that, we right click this clip and unlink the step sequencer clips. Now this clip is not connected to the other clips. So let me get that done. Okay, it's done. Here we have the fill. Now, about keeping the project clean. In the plugin, we can see that we have only used till the 7th pad. I'm not even using these samples. This is the last sample I use. I'll get rid of these so that you won't get confused, and also move this to the end so you can easily understand what I'm trying to say. Let's assume that we used only till the 4th pad, which means we only need 1, 2, 3, 4 tracks. We don't need the rest. So I'm going to select that, right click, delete 12 tracks. I always suggest doing this just before entering the mixing phase after we have completed the production in this view. Now assume again we need to add some more samples. I'm going to add this sample back into its place, but there is no output for this pad now. So we need an audio out, right? I'm going to right click here and then insert audio track. If I drag it down and click on the input, we can select Sitala and select the stereo out of the 5th pad. Neither this nor this because we want stereo outputs, which is left and right together. Alright? Now we have this out. Let me undo that to show you another method. We can select the last track and then right click and then click append instrument track. Cakewalk adds an audio track and does the audio routing for us. The only problem is it also adds a MIDI track which we don't need. You can see the MIDI logo here representing the MIDI track. I'm going to right click and delete it. Now this pad has an output. It was also added in the wrong place, so I'm going to move it to here. Not there, down here. Oh no, it's out of the folder now. Move to folder, sit allowed. Yep, that's it. But what if we are dealing with a plugin like SI Drum Kit, which does not have multiple outputs? I'm adding it the same way I added Zitala, but as you can see, the outputs of all of the drums is coming through one single track. In such cases, what we can do is add the plugin as a simple instrument track. Let's keep this synth track folder enabled. So now it's an instrument plugin like this Decent Sampler and Labs, providing only one audio output and the track is able to hold the MIDI. So now I'm gonna try something out. I'm gonna copy down this step sequencer clip and then right click and unlink the clips. Otherwise any change I make here will be reflected in here. Then I'm going to open it and edit it in such a way that it sounds like that it was played by a real drummer in a real drum kit. So this is what I came up with. Now I'm going to extend this clip throughout the whole time and then right click it and click bounce to clips. This will convert the entire step sequencer clip into a piano roll MIDI clip. Now we can add these unique non-repetitive stuff like these crashes. Now we're going to see how many drums we actually used from the whole kit. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which means we are going to right click on the SI drum kit track, then duplicate track with a repetition of 4. We don't want effects or synths or anything, maybe events, which will copy these MIDI clips too. Alright, now I'm going to rename them with the names of the drums in the kit. Now all we have to do is open the piano roll and from the kick track, remove everything other than kick. Likewise, we do the same thing for the other tracks of the drum kit. So there we have essentially split the output of SI drum kit. And now we can process them individually. And that's it for this video. Leave a like if you found it useful. In the next video, we will be looking into step sequencer in much more detail. And in the video after that, we will be mixing these tracks and it will sound a lot better. I haven't decided which drums we will be using. It's probably gonna be the one with Sitala. And with that, this is ADK and I'll see you in the next video. And here is the outro.